Hey guys, Music Breakdown here, reviewing the new Avenged Sevenfold album, The Stage. Now, Avenged Sevenfold is one of those Hot Topic-esque metal bands that kind of suck. In a lot of their music, they exemplify much of what is bad with mainstream modern pop metal. Clean production, predictable song structures, and overall just bland and uninteresting. That being said, I used to like these guys more than I do now, but I will say City of Evil is a fun album and I enjoy it. But other than that, really, these guys pass under my radar, and I'm fine with them continuing to do that. However, this album here managed to not slip under my radar, and I thought, I've heard this one's different, maybe I'll check them out and see if, they're really taking a risk. And, I mean, they really are. The Stage is a progressive metal album. Not to say that that's inherently risky, I mean, look at fucking Dream Theater. But it can be, especially when their basic music and their fan base is more into the very straightforward heavy metal. And like I said, one of my issues with this band tends to be their predictable song structures, but that's out the window here. These songs go in completely unpredictable directions, which is awesome. And I was happy to see that on the music video for The Stage, quite a few of their fans really are not liking this album. And I mean, that could mean that the album just sucks, in some situations, but in this situation, I think it means that Avenged Sevenfold took a fucking risk, which is awesome that they did that. That being said, this album is not wildly out there or inaccessible or anything of the sort, simply inaccessible to this band's normal fan base. And I can respect that. I can respect that they're trying something seriously different with this album. And I can also respect that it sort of pays off. The Stage is a surprisingly decent album. Now, I want to actually start with what's bad about this album. The mixing, production, for the most part, it seems like they're trying to do something more raw and they're not making everything super fucking loud like they normally do. Like City of Evil, it's clipping constantly because every instrument's so incredibly loud. And actually, these instruments are mixed pretty quietly. I was flipping between different songs this band has made from this album and then other albums, and I noticed that the other ones are incredibly loud, and this one really isn't. So that's good. They're not, playing the loudness war game anymore. Maybe it's time to stop doing that. Well, at least they're not doing that with most of their instruments, because there is one tiny problem with this, and it's that everything's quiet except for the goddamn kick pedal. And this may seem like a minor point, but trust me, it's not. These guys have always had double bass in their music, well, except for on the Hail to the King stuff. Especially with their old drummer, Jimmy Sullivan. And this new drummer here, who's apparently a former Bad Religion drummer, is using double bass all the time. So all over this album, there's bass pedal, and it's so goddamn loud. It's louder than everything else. It peaks through everything, and it is so annoying. I mean, the first time I heard this album, I absolutely despised it, because like that fucking kick pedal, I couldn't take my mind off of it, because it's always there, and it's so loud, it's overpowering everything, it makes the drum sound completely unmixed and shitty. It just sounds horrible, and it's an ever-present sound. It's a huge problem. And also, the vocals are not all that great on this album. They're not bad, but they're not great. I think M. Shadows' voice has had better days, is all I'm saying. It's not bad, it's fine, it's serviceable, and I don't really mind it. And some tracks are pretty underwhelming. I'm thinking Angels and Roman Sky. Both of these songs are really bland, really uninteresting. They don't go in the cool musical directions that everything else goes in. Roman Sky mixed sort of poorly. It's a very basic generic strings ballad that you would expect from a metal band, a strings power ballad. The strings sound very muddled and it doesn't sound very good. And Angels is just sort of bland. But I don't want to give you the wrong impression because I actually sort of like this album. I mean, that kick pedal problem really bogs down a lot of these songs, but I'm still able to really enjoy what these guys are doing on these songs and what they're doing musically. It's actually interesting. The title track, This Stage, is the first single dropped from the album. In fact, I think as of right now, it's the only single. It could have dropped another one, but the album came out 2 days later with no warning. But anyway, this is a pretty decent song. I think it's very anthemic. It's a good way to pick an opener too, because it sets you up for the sound that a lot of these songs go on, these interesting musical detours, constantly taking itself in different directions. And this album is a concept album mostly centered around our movement towards artificial intelligence and sort of showing how the human species is evolving into something that we were never expecting and could end up, starting to take over the universe. But also asking questions like, is this really a good thing? I'm really digging the track Sunny Disposition. I mean, you want to talk an unpredictable song, this one just goes all over the fucking place. And a lot of this song is pretty decent, but what really does it for me here are the passages with the horns section. They're actually excellent. I mean that. They are excellent. These horns have this dark swagger to them, and it just feels very smooth, but also very sinister, in such a way that I don't think anything else in this album quite captures. I'm also really digging the track Simulation. It's another track that's very unpredictable, especially in the beginning and into the chorus. It feels very laid back, very simple. The guitar's not doing very much until suddenly that gunshot sound comes in and the song just picks up all that momentum suddenly, and it does it like twice. I also love the skit in here with this machine, we can only assume, artificial intelligence machine, roaming free through this facility and everybody's freaking out. And also that line, I know this may be hard to believe, but you only exist because we allow it. So sort of asking this question of, are artificial intelligence machines life? And do they have the capability to be life? And is it moral to hurt and capture these machines? Now, that being said, I don't think the lyrics in this album are really all that great, but the ideas they raise here are very interesting. A lot of the choruses here are very soaring, much like Avenged Sevenfold generally does. Some of them are more underwhelming than others, like on the track Creating God, although I do like the verses a lot on this track. They feel very Alice in Chains-esque, and also some of the more musical detour sections, but the chorus here is pretty bland. And then other times it's the opposite, like on the track Higher, where I'm not really impressed with most of this song, but the chorus is very anthemic, very soaring, really picks up the pace in this song, and leaves it feeling satisfactory. I think they've always been good at crafting choruses, and that really doesn't change much on this album. I should mention that this is Avenged Sevenfold's longest album yet. Only one track goes under 4 minutes. Most of them stretch 5, 6, with the final track here, Exist, stretching 15 minutes. And if there's one thing in this album that deserves the most praise, it's definitely Exist. I can't exactly say I'm crazy about this track because the middle section here, where it's actually like a song, is incredibly bland. Like, it's just missing a lot of instrumentation. It feels like it's unfinished. But the other two sections of this song are really, really phenomenal. Like the opening 7 or so minutes, where it's just instrumental, and it's going all over the place, taking itself in new direction after new direction, with this intense guitar wankery constantly going on. And normally I'd say it's just a bunch of bullshit, the guitar playing on this album, and I guess it kind of is, but let's be real here, it is kind of awesome sometimes. And I think this portion of Exist really shows that off. But the final part of Exist was the biggest surprise for me on this album. And it's actually really, really fantastic. So they got Neil deGrasse Tyson to come in and record his own speech, sort of encapsulating the idea that, did we as humans invent the concept of a god strictly because we view that the universe centers around us? Strictly because we view the Earth as everything, when really it's such a microcosm of what the universe really has to offer. And he's talking about how there's more stars in the universe than grains of sand on every beach, more stars in the universe than words uttered by every human being who has ever lived. And it really puts things in perspective, but what I think makes this even more thought-provoking and mind-blowing is the instrumental going on underneath it. They bring out this repetitive groove with the guitar and the drums that just keeps chugging along underneath this speech, but what's more impressive and what really builds it for me are these keys that they have laid over it. It sounds like a metal rendition of a soundtrack to the cosmos as a whole, and that being played underneath Neil deGrasse Tyson's speech is just, oh my god, it's phenomenal. Like, what a fantastic way to end this album, really. I just wish I could sing that praise for the rest of this album. I mean, it really shows the potential that this has. Had the mixing been better, vocal performance has been better, songs been better for the most part, because really none of these are blowing me away. Not even Exist, only sections of Exist. And it does leave me thinking that maybe if Avenged Sevenfold gets their productions in line, their next album, going in this direction, could be something really special. But as it stands, I don't think they top City of Evil with this. City of Evil is at least consistently fun, whereas this album has moments of brilliance, but for the most part is really just kind of okay. I still think that's worth something, especially coming from Avenged Sevenfold. I give The Stage a decent 6.25 out of 10. And I do want to point out that I see good stuff in this band's future, and I'll probably be checking out their next few albums. Bye, guys.
More stars than words and sounds ever uttered by all humans who have ever lived. The day we cease exploration of the cosmos is the day we threaten the continuance of our species.